Let's go, baby.
Now it's time for Swoop Radio with Josh Sanchez. I hope you guys enjoy the show.
And you heard the announcement. Swoop Radio is back. Second show of the week. And what a day it's been. What a week it's been in the sports. Like, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers making tons of trades. My last radio show, I talked about how the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl, how they won it. I talked about what it meant to the city of Philadelphia, knowing that your team is champions. And then we talked about what's next for the Patriots, what's next for the Eagles. And Philadelphia as a whole has been winning since then. I promised everyone that this show is going to be strictly basketball, and I'm going to throw in a little bit of baseball in there towards the end, just because, man, I'm so excited for this up and coming baseball season. I plan to get tickets for the Phillies either opening day game or the second game when they take on the Marlins. So it should be fun, should be a good one. But let's get started with the Cleveland Cavaliers and what is going on with the Cavaliers and all the whole trade deadline that went down. At first, Cleveland, they were struggling a lot. They were falling. They were going to fall towards the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. And to be honest, the Eastern Conference is not really that strong. So the fact that your team was losing, LeBron wasn't happy. No one was happy on the Cavs. So they needed to make some deals. And the first trade that was really good for the Cavaliers was they traded Isaiah Thomas, Channing Frye, and a 2018 first-round draft pick for Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. What they get out of Jordan Clarkson is they get a guy that can score off the bench and give you that 15, 20 points off the bench, something that the Cavs were struggling with a lot this season. And then the other part of the trade was adding Larry Nance Jr. He gives you that big man presence that you guys, and athleticism, that the Cavaliers were lacking. The Cavaliers, to be honest, were old, slow, and they just couldn't get the job done. But you saw how Larry Nance Jr. played against the Oklahoma City Thunder the other night. He played really key minutes and was a force in the paint and slowed down Russell Westbrook's drives. So the Cavaliers, on that first trade, they added youth. They've added a bench scorer in Jordan Clarkson, who has been playing great in his 2 or 3 games he's played for the Cavaliers. But it'll be interesting to see when they go up against playoff teams. Will that youth get to them, or will that youth give LeBron that extra boost that he needs? So that's going to be a couple questions that the Cavs are going to have to answer within these next couple weeks. But in terms of the trade deadline, you got rid of Isaiah Thomas, who was struggling. He just wasn't a fit for the team. He's a great player, but when you're just not fitting well in the team, you need to go. And that was the first trade that went down in Cleveland. The second trade that happened was George Hill and Rodney Hood are traded to the Cavaliers for Derrick Rose and Jay Crowder. So the Cavs shipped Derrick Rose and Jay Crowder to the Jazz, and Joe Johnson and Iman Shumpert as part of a 3-team trade. Joe Johnson and Iman Shumpert and a 2020 second-round pick went to Sacramento. So Sacramento was a part of this, Utah was a part of this, and the Cleveland Cavaliers were a part of this. And what the Cavs got in return is they got a veteran point guard that gets rid of the pressure of LeBron James always having the ball in his hands. We saw time and time again this season, LeBron James had to run the whole offense. He had to be the point guard. And adding George Hill, who has playoff experience and has that playoff mentality and knows what it takes to win, and you add that to LeBron's leadership, that is a great pickup for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then also adding Rodney Hood, who is shooting about 40% from 3. This guy is one of the most underrated players in the NBA. He's 6'8", so he can guard really well across the perimeter. He can guard the shooting guards. He can guard Kevin Durant when they play Kevin Durant. He can mix in with LeBron, so it takes less pressure out on LeBron when they play each other. And I'll get to the Cavaliers and their chances to win the East and so forth a little bit later on to the show. But yeah, that trade was a great trade for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Yeah, you lost Derrick Rose, but what was Derrick Rose doing and Jay Crowder? They were just not fits into the team. Derrick Rose was going through the mental block of not being a good player as he once was anymore and dealing with more injuries like I said he would have in the beginning of the season. A lot of people didn't want to hear it. Oh, Derrick Rose, oh, he's going to go back to his MVP form. Nah, get out of here. Derrick Rose, he's a good, solid player, but he's never going to be the MVP he once was. You go through 3 knee injuries, season-ending knee injuries. It's time to think about retirement. Derrick Rose, you had a great career, but you're going to be always fit in those categories as the what-if category. What if you didn't get injured? So that's just something that you're going to have to live with, being that superstar player you once were. But again, Iman Shumpert, the Cavs aren't really getting anything from him. So the Cavaliers, what they did was they got pretty much a brand new roster in 2 days or in a day. So and usually LeBron's had a history of when he complains to the general manager, he usually gets what he wants. So I don't want to hear any complaining from LeBron James from here on out, because his manager went out and got him players. He got him a lethal shooter in Rodney Hood and a defender in Rodney Hood. He got him veteran leadership in George Hill. He got him a new fluctuation of youth with the addition of Jordan Clarkson, your bench scorer, and Larry Nance Jr., who can be your paint protector other than Tristan Thompson. It'll be interesting to see once Kevin Love comes back, what are the Cavaliers going to do from there? Will they because if Larry Nance Jr. and Jordan Clarkson continue the ball, will they give Kevin Love less minutes or putting Kevin Love in more of an offensive scoring lineup? That'll be something that we're just going to have to wait and see and see what happens from there. And then the Cavaliers also traded Dwayne Wade to the Miami Heat for a second-round pick. And I'll get to the Sixers a little bit later in the show. Dwayne Wade almost hit a buzzer beater last night. I think this trade was a win-win for both teams. The Miami Heat lacked that veteran leadership on that team, and adding Dwayne Wade can be that veteran leader that they need. Because right now, the Miami Heat are sitting at the 8th seed and looking to get over the hump. They're only a couple games from the 4th seed to the 8th seed. There's only a couple games separating the 76ers, the Washington Wizards, the Miami Heat, and so on and so forth. But that trade was, again, a win for both teams. The Cavaliers got rid of Dwayne Wade. They were having locker room problems. They were getting too old. They need more youth. So what they did was they got a second-round pick for him. And the Miami Heat get that veteran leader that they lack. That's one thing Miami Heat lacks. They lack two things. They lack lethal shooters, and they also lack a veteran leader. And getting Dwayne Wade for the Miami Heat will probably get them the 8th seed and possibly the 7th seed with that addition. And that's my bold statement with the Miami Heat. I think the Miami Heat will get the 8th or 7th seed. I'm not really a believer in the Pistons. I feel like their year will be next year. They're sitting right now a game below 500. The Pistons they got Blake Griffin, but they don't really scare me. Like when I think of teams, playoff teams, they don't really scare me. The Miami Heat, when they just lack that lethal shooting. But if they can find lethal shooting and Dwayne Wade can be that veteran leader, that could be a team that could be in the playoffs. I don't know, will they get past the first round? Probably not. But the Sixers and Miami Heat played a great game. I'm going to get to that a little bit later on to the show. But right now I'm sticking with the Cavaliers and starting off with the Cavaliers because they made so many deals in the trade deadline. For those that are just joining me on the show, they've gotten Rodney Hood, they've gotten George Hill, they've got Jordan Clarkson, Larry Nance Jr. So they got a new influx. I've never seen this in the NBA trade deadline. You get lethal shooters, you get youth, and you get a veteran leadership all in one day. Like I have not seen. I feel like teams are just handing the Cavaliers players. I don't know why, but in terms of their chances for the East, coming into the season, I said that the Cavaliers are going to be favorites of the East no matter what. Even during their losing streak, I've always said that the Cleveland Cavaliers are the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. Only because, think about it, the two teams that are ahead of them, you have the Toronto Raptors. LeBron James can guard DeMar DeRozan, and that's why DeMar DeRozan always struggles against the Cavs, because LeBron James is always on him, and LeBron James knows how to cover him. Like, when you just play against someone, you just know how to play against them. That's how the Cavs are against the Raptors. They just know how to play against them. And for the Toronto Raptors to beat the Cavaliers, DeRozan and Kyle Lowry are going to have to trust Serge Ibaka. They're going to have to trust Valanciunas. They're going to have to trust others to win. because LeBron James will be on DeMar DeRozan and he will neutralize him. And we see in years past, the Raptors, when it gets into crunch time, the Raptors, they lean to Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan instead of trusting their team. And what happens is Kyle Lowry is an undersized point guard, and when you go up against the Cavaliers, you go up against the Boston Celtics, you go up against teams that have elite defenses like the Golden State Warriors and stuff, they're going to put their best defender on those two guys. And the fact that Kyle Lowry is already undersized, he doesn't get the job done in the postseason. In the postseason, you grab more. It's more physical. And Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan struggle in the postseason. So that's why I'm not a believer in the Raptors until I actually see it. In terms of the Boston Celtics, if they had Gordon Hayward, we'd be having a different conversation right now. But you can see right now they have a lot of youth. They have a leader in Kyrie. They'll probably be an Eastern Conference Finals team or a second-round team. It's just in terms of that youth and that inexperience. Jason Tatum's only 19 years old. Jaylen Brown's only 20 or 21 years old. So those guys are just a couple years away from being something special. So that's what I think in terms of the two teams that are ahead of the Cavs. But, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers coming out of the East before the trade deadlines. And even now, with the trades, I feel like the Cavs are the clear-cut favorite now to win the East. They got younger. They got more athletic. They also gotten better shooters around. And they also got a veteran leader in George Hill, who was one of the most underrated point guards in the game. Look up his highlight tape in Indiana. This guy was truly sensational in Indiana when they went to back-to-back Eastern Conference championships against LeBron James and Miami Heat. They almost got the job done. They just couldn't get over the hump. LeBron James was in his prime and just too good. But when you have the best player in the world, that is LeBron James, you are going to be the clear-cut favorite. Now, would it be interesting to see a couple teams lose? Yes. Or see the Cavs and Warriors lose? I would be ecstatic if the Cavaliers or the Golden State Warriors lost. I think the Warriors have a better chance of losing, only because they're in a tougher conference. If you switch teams and put the Cavs in the West and Warriors in the East, the Cavaliers would not make 3 straight finals. Just letting you know that from there. You have to play defense to win. And in terms of their chances with the Warriors, I still think the Warriors will win. I think the series will be 5-6 games, only because Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr., they're young guys, and I feel like when you go up against elite teams in the postseason where they grab you more, they play more physical with you, I just think Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. are not there yet in terms of beating the Golden State Warriors. But in terms of coming out of the East, I definitely see the Cleveland Cavaliers coming out of the East, hands down. I saw it before the trades, and I see it after. I'm a firm believer in I'm not going to change my prediction based off of circumstances. Unless I truly see a team defeat the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference, I'm not going to believe in Toronto, and I'm not going to believe in Boston, only because they're not there yet. They're almost there, but they're just not quite there yet. If the Celtics had Gordon Hayward, we'd probably have a different conversation, because Gordon Hayward, one of the most underrated players in the game, 25-point scorer, and would definitely help out the Celtics offensively. The Celtics go through stretches of their offense just struggling, and we saw it last night against the Los Angeles Clippers. The Boston Celtics have lost 4 of their last 5 and are trending downward. The Cleveland Cavaliers are starting to trend up. But it'll be interesting to see how the season goes and what goes on from there in terms of the Cavaliers and the Golden State Warriors. But now I'm going to do a quick little transition. I talked about the Cavaliers trades and the Cavaliers' new team to be in the East. I mean, they didn't really surprise me with the trades. I knew that the GM was going to do something because LeBron James was going to walk in the offseason. But this leads to my quick little other topic right here. I'm going to talk about LeBron James and possible free agent destinations where he could possibly go. And I honestly think with these trades, his chances of staying at Cleveland are a lot higher than they were when the Cavs did not make those trades. Think about it. The Cavs were old, they were slow, and they didn't play defense. And now with all these trades, they're young, they're more athletic. They still don't play defense, but with that youth and that extra burst of energy, that helps LeBron James and elevates his style of game, his style of play. We saw against Oklahoma City, he scored 17 straight points in the third quarter. he was absolutely lighting it up in the third quarter. So adding those youth and those young guys to give LeBron James more of that energy, yeah, that does boost LeBron's chances of staying in Cleveland. But do I personally believe that LeBron James will stay in Cleveland? No, I don't. And it's only because I look at the teams like the Houston Rockets, who right now are the best team in the NBA, or the best team in the Western Conference in terms of record. You see Chris Paul and James Harden. The Rockets have Hall of Fame point guard play for 48 minutes of the game. And adding LeBron James to that, I get it that you're going to have to cut some players, but I feel like the Houston Rockets should be, if LeBron James wants to win now mentality, he can either A, stay in Cleveland and lose in the finals, or B, go to Houston. I get it that it's in the Western Conference, but if you get to play with Chris Paul and James Harden, I would not take up that opportunity in a heartbeat. And those two guys continue to show game after game that their duo is something special. You pretty much have a hybrid. You have a Kobe Bryant scorer mentality in James Harden, but he can also pass the ball. And then you have that Hall of Fame point guard in Chris Paul, who brings that veteran leadership and that defensive mentality that the Rockets were lacking last season. And you can see that in Chris Paul. The Houston Rockets, any top free agent should give a look at them. Another team I'm looking at is the Los Angeles Lakers. The Los Angeles Lakers, with that trade, yeah, I get it, you got rid of Clarkson and Nance Jr., but they cleared up $60 million in cap space. The Los Angeles Lakers are going to have about $70 million to go after Paul George and to go after LeBron James. And who knows, playing with Alonzo Ball, who was a pass-first mentality player, and adding Paul George, why wouldn't LeBron go to the Lakers? I know Bleacher Report said a couple weeks ago, oh, no, LeBron ain't going to the Lakers. LeBron is going. He might go to the Lakers because of what the Lakers just did. Isaiah Thomas is going to walk in free agency. Right now, Isaiah Thomas is just going to play. To earn that money, because right now, teams are looking at Isaiah Thomas and his problems with Cleveland, even though Isaiah Thomas does not deserve all the credit, all the criticism he's receiving. But you're in a contract year. Teams are if you're looking to get paid, this is not looking good for you. So playing for the Lakers right now, this is his statement. This is his chance to earn that money. So Isaiah Thomas is going to walk. So that's going to clear more money out. LeBron James, and he can get paid in Los Angeles and play with Paul George. They'll both get paid. And who knows? It could be something special in Los Angeles. Another team I see that I don't really see this happening, but I know there's been talks about it. The 76ers are talking with LeBron James. As a Sixers fan, I do not want LeBron James to come to Philadelphia. I'm one of those guys that we had our process for a reason. We drafted Embiid for a reason. We drafted Ben Simmons for a reason. We drafted Markelle Fultz for a reason. Let those guys grow. Let those guys develop. And then we'll see from there. So LeBron James, there's talks with him going to Philly. We're up and coming. Philadelphia is a great team. But that's another team that I see that could happen. Another team that's coming out of left field, and only because whatever team he goes to, he finds a way to, I'll mention a name in a couple minutes. He finds a way to lure in big-name free agents, and that is Sir Jerry West. Jerry West has had a history. He lured Shaq and completely destroyed the Magic's fans and their hopes when he landed Shaq to come to Los Angeles. Jerry West has had a history. He built the Showtime Lakers. He built the duo of Kobe Bryant and Shaq. He turned the Memphis Grizzlies team, who was an expansion team and completely stunk, to a playoff team and from the early 2000s. Then he comes into Golden State and completely started this dynasty of Golden State. And now guess what team he's on? He's on the Los Angeles Clippers. That is Sir Jerry West. And wherever Jerry West goes, success follows. Could LeBron James go to the Los Angeles Clippers? That could be a possibility. We just have to wait and see. But that's just my left field team, only because it's Jerry West. You can't count out Jerry West for anybody. He is the one that lured Kevin Durant and got Kevin Durant to come to Golden State. A lot of people do not realize that, but he is the guy. He had a sit-down interview with Kevin Durant and convinced him to come to Golden State. So that's something interesting. Another topic that's been going on with the Lakers and LeVar Ball. If I'm the Lakers, I would just silence LeVar Ball and just tell him to just be quiet. Like it's not really that big of a deal. Right now there's going to be talks of Lonzo possibly leaving the Lakers and this, that, and the third, because Lonzo Ball has missed 13 straight games due to an MCL sprain, but he's going to be back in the All-Star break. Once Lonzo Ball plays and gets the gel back with the team and his teammates, I don't see Lonzo Ball leaving. I don't. I've had a couple of people come up to me and say, because I am a big Lonzo Ball fan. I'm not going to lie, I am. I respect the kid's game. I love pass-first-minded players. He is going to be something special in the league. But I just think his dad just likes to run his mouth. And I think Lonzo Ball is going nowhere. He needs to develop his game, and he needs to be a great leader for the team. And I just see him and Paul George and possibly LeBron James meshing with each other. You don't understand. The Los Angeles Lakers have $69 million in cap room. That is so much room. You can get 2 all-star players, or you can get 2 5-star caliber players if you get good role players around them that are willing to take pay cuts. And honestly, whatever team LeBron goes to, you're going to have veterans that are willing to take pay cuts. So that's just going to be something to see from here on out on where LeBron goes. So here's the 4 teams I have right now. The Rockets right now are my top team only because Chris Paul and James Harden are balling together. And if I'm LeBron James, I want to play with those 2 guys. And he could be that third piece that gets the Rockets over the Golden State Warriors. You add 2 veteran presence in Chris Paul and LeBron James, who are not just offensive-minded players. They are defensive-minded studs. One in the backcourt, one in the front court. Watch out, the Rockets could be something special. My second team is the Los Angeles Lakers, only because of their deals in the offseason. They have around $70 million in cap space. You can't sleep on that, folks. And then I have the 76ers as my third team. I have them and my Clippers, and the Clippers are like the same right now. I don't want to see LeBron to Philly. I'm not excited about that at all. But they do have a new influxation of young talent, and LeBron James, as he gets older, can get used to the young talent. And Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Markelle Fultz, and so on and so forth. And then the Los Angeles Clippers, because you can never count out Jerry West and his success. Wherever Jerry goes, success follows. Remember that, folks. If you guys can pick up something from this show, I want you guys to pick up at least this from Jerry West. I'm going to name his history one more time before I go on break and go to the music real quick. After the music gets played, I'm going to talk about the 76ers and their winning ways. Ben Simmons, Rookie of the Year talk. So if you guys want to stick around for that, it's going to be a good topic. But I'm going to leave the first topic I'm going to end it on this note. Wherever Jerry West goes, success follows. He was the owner for the Lakers during the Showtime era with Magic Johnson. He was the person that added Shaquille O'Neal to the Lakers to play with Kobe Bryant. At the time, Shaq was talking about going and remaining with the Magic. For those who do not realize this, didn't Shaq go to the NBA Finals with that great duo in Orlando? Yes, he did. And Jerry West is the guy that led Shaq to come to Los Angeles. Then, let's fast forward a couple years later. He leaves Los Angeles. Jerry West goes to the Memphis Grizzlies and turns a team that literally only won 18 games the year before and was an expansion team, and gave them playoff experience. In his 5 seasons there, they made it, or 5 to 7 seasons there, they made it 3 to 5 times in those seasons. And he turned an expansion team into a playoff team. Then he goes to the Golden State Warriors. He convinces the owner not to get rid of Stephen Curry, get rid of Monte Ellis. He drafts Klay Thompson. He drafts Draymond Green. He lures in Kevin Durant. And now you see the Warriors now winning 2 of the last 3 championships and probably will repeat this year. I don't see a team beating them unless the Houston Rockets can get it done. But